The central bank of this $330 billion giant is looking to beat the United States and Donald Trump to become the first to adopt Bitcoin. But just how quickly will this start? Nation state FOMO, and how much are they looking to allocate towards Bitcoin? What does this mean for everything going forward? Let's dive into the Czech Republic, who is now considering to hold Bitcoin reserve as an asset. Now, this vote takes place within the next 24 hours, folks. So this is happening very, very quickly. But Alice Michel, all right, I'm going to try to pronounce that. Hopefully I did all right. But he's the Czech Republic's national bank's governor, and he's talked about the price stability. When he took office in 2022, inflation was at a staggering 17.5%. They were able to bring it down, target, and diversify the reserves, gradually increasing their gold holdings from 0 to around 5% and planning for 30% in equities. As an asset, under consideration is Bitcoin. Now, that's absolutely massive now that we have a central banker openly talking about, hey, this could be a thing that we're going to consider here, and we're going to vote on it within 24 hours. They've been one of the more successful central banks to bring down their massive amounts of inflation. And so they're going to be looking to allocate now to Bitcoin as a potential, because they said it, quote, has zero correlations to bonds and is an interesting asset for a large portfolio. Now, Bitcoin has significant volatility, which makes it harder to take advantage of in its current low correlation with other assets. That's why I will ask our team on Thursday. If I'm checking the date here, folks, it looks like it's Wednesday, to further assess Bitcoin's potential role in our reserve. So he also said this article is very accurate and that Bitcoin could one day be worth zero or huge amount. So it looks like central bankers are now looking at Bitcoin and the potential of Bitcoin here to continue their to diversify their central reserve assets. Now, they're talking about potentially up to 5% of the Czech's national bank's reserve assets, which is about $140 billion worth of euros. So that's not a small chunk of change here, folks. That is pretty good. Now, with everything going on here, I think the interesting aspect is, hey, we had 7 days ago, the United States released the digital asset bill saying that they're going to look into a Bitcoin strategic reserve. And now we have David Bailey, who has been at the forefront of a lot of this nation state adoption with what the work he does at Bitcoin Magazine, saying, hey, look at this. The central bank is meeting on Thursday to vote on allocating up to 5% of its reserves to Bitcoin. The United States cannot wait 6 months. We need to go now. So with all this being said, it looks like, these central bankers are seemingly starting to catch on and seeing what Trump is going to do with Bitcoin here going forward. So they're proposing allocating to up to 5%. It's joining a growing list of nations considering a Bitcoin strategic reserve, and Bitcoin's volatility is becoming less of a deterrent as institutional adoption arises. Now, so reading between the tea leaves here, folks, it seems like to me that everybody is seeing Donald Trump. Everybody is seeing MicroStrategy. They're seeing other giants such as Meta, such as Amazon, such as these other big giant players now looking at Bitcoin as a potential for a reserve asset, whether it's on their balance sheet or something else going forward. They're looking like, hey, we need to consider this thing. And, it's definitely something that is bullish going forward. But not everything is being shed in the lightest or the brightest of lights here, as we also have, the Czech central bank chief in this Fortune magazine saying that want the country to buy Bitcoin, as he claims Trump's guys have created a bubble. Now, this is the only article that I've seen that has said that Trump's guys are creating a Bitcoin bubble. So I don't know how much weight I'm really putting into this article here, but the boss of the Central Republic's bank wants to pump billions of euros of the country's reserves into Bitcoin, a landmark move that would likely upset fellow European central bankers. So they're already kind of painting this frame in this article alone, like saying, hey, this is not going to be positive here going forward for should the Czech Republic Central Bank and what everything is going, or the Central Republic, or excuse me, the Czech Republic Central Bank. That's a little bit of a tongue twister here, folks. But they're painting this frame that, hey, the ECB has been looking at the digital euro. They've been looking at a lot of other aspects as to reserve assets. Now, doing this and allocating 5%, $140 billion worth of euros, about $145 billion into Bitcoin would potentially upset a lot of people. But they've added out of the election of Donald Trump, which has boosted the value of Bitcoin amid deregulation expectations, has created both a bubble and an opportunity. Those guys can now create some bubble for Bitcoin. But I think the trend would be an increase without those guys as well. So just from this quote here, it seems like it's pretty misleading to me as well, where they're saying, hey, Trump is creating a bubble in Bitcoin, but the trend would have been to increase without those guys as well. So they're saying, hey, directly in this article here, they think Bitcoin would have gone up either way, whether or not it was Trump or Kamala who got elected. So I think it's interesting that they're saying that Trump is creating a bubble, but it's an alternative investment for more people. So the Czech National Bank stands out among its European peers for its openness to investing the unconventional asset among the central banks. As of September last year, 22% of the Czech Republic's national bank's portfolio was held in equities, more than any other central bank. Mikhail wants half of the CNB's equities to come from from the U.S. stocks, and from up the current share to about 30%. So they're looking to increase all these different aspects, increase their Bitcoin holdings because of just the inflationary pressures that we're seeing globally, right? So the Czech Republic Central Bank now sees that Bitcoin is a viable asset, especially with the way that Trump is being super friendly with everything going on, proposing that a 5% allocation could be big for its diversification. But just how big is the Czech Republic? I mentioned it here at the beginning. It's a $330 billion country. It's not necessarily jumping off the table here being a G7 or a G20 country, but it is very viable because of just how big and how central the Czech Republic is, right? I mean, here's a breakdown of its reserves in millions, right? So I said that they were going to put about about 5% into this. And I think the timing is something to be really looked at here, because we have the Trump administration administering the Strengthening American Leadership in Digital Financial Technology report, talking about a Bitcoin or a digital asset stockpile literally less than 7 days ago, 6 days ago. And then this vote is happening within 7 days, right? So all these other countries are seeing what the United States are doing. They're keeping a very close eye on what the U.S. is doing. And because they're keeping a close eye on that, they're looking to move quickly. The U.S., as David Bailey said, does not have 6 months to essentially just wait around for them. And it seems like, the U.S. is waiting for the right time to strike, but that right time might be passing them by here very quickly. So why is Prague and why is the Czech Republic significant? Well, Prague has been essentially the most, quote, crypto-friendly city in the world. And they have a major Bitcoin conference out in Prague every single year. In fact, they've had Michael Saylor, one of the greats, come out and talk and give the 21 rules of Bitcoin. And I'll play a little bit of this beginning for you guys here, as I think it's one of the better talks that I've ever seen. And it seems like every time Michael Saylor goes to some location, whether it's Prague, whether it's Brazil, whether it's one of these other nation states, they start to pop up and do some sort of Bitcoin strategic reserve or have some sort of Bitcoin plan. But let's listen in.
My second best set of slides, 21 rules of Bitcoin. I didn't label it the 21 rules of Bitcoin because everybody's got their rules. And I'm not so presumptuous to think that I know the 21 rules, but I have my 21 rules, and I'm delighted to share them with you today. I'm going to start by framing my conversation. Bitcoin's a singularity where science collides with economics.
So I'm not going to sit here and have you guys listen to all of that, but just a little snippet there where Michael Saylor is essentially showing us that, hey, science, economics, if you want to be very tech friendly and everything along those lines going forward, you're going to need some sort of Bitcoin plan, as it really does highlight the collision between science and economics. And, the Czech Republic having Prague as one of the more crypto-friendly hubs in the world is absolutely massive. A lot of these cities, countries, they want to be more tech-friendly because they see that it brings in more talent, more jobs, and just, it's one of the fastest growing industries in the world. So how could they ignore the writing on the wall here that they're seeing, right? They're saying it's the most crypto-friendly city in the world, where it's a major European and international hub for Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. There's 154 venues, bars, restaurants, hotels, etc., where Bitcoin is accepted. This also includes dozens of ATMs where people are able to take out cash from digital currency accounts. So Prague has been very forward with progressing with everything along the lines of Bitcoin and what it brings to the table. And even with all of this bullish news, with the vote happening literally in less than 24 hours, we're still seeing Bitcoin crab rock here. As my buddy in the chat, Down Under Blue, says, when will the Bitcoin CEO decide to raise the prices again for Bitcoin? Hey, I can't believe it yet either. We're sitting here just towards the end of the month of January. Let's see what we got in this past month. Or year to date, we have about 9% up year to date, which is crazy that we're saying, hey, why isn't Bitcoin doing anything? It's only up 9% in a month, right? It's only up that much. We've seen it hit its all-time high this month, and I look for it to continue climbing here. But, as we're all lining this out, I think the true power of Bitcoin is being able to hold in self-custody. That is the true mission. It's freedom technology, folks. You can travel wherever you want in the world. I'm coming to you live here from beautiful Medellin, Colombia. And on top of that, we're talking about Prague. So, I'm American. Look at all the news that's transferring all over the world about Bitcoin and everybody jumping on the movement. But the true power of Bitcoin is the freedom technology aspect. You can really hold Bitcoin in your own keys, and you can not necessarily need to rely on a counterparty or anything like that. When you're traveling a lot, they could freeze your bank accounts. They could do a bunch of crazy things. We've seen it all happen here recently. That's why I partnered with the Bitcoin Well. You could go to the bitcoinwell.com/green-candle and get yourself started with the best exchange, where they're strictly non-custodial. So you can send it directly to cold storage. If you're in the US, you can now do direct deposit, where you can have your fiat job pay you directly and send a percentage of your Bitcoin or of your paycheck directly to Bitcoin. And on top of that, they have the best OTC desk in the world. If you want to buy at least $50,000 or more of Bitcoin at a single time, I highly recommend you go to thebitcoinwell.com. You click on this OTC button here. They'll give you the best white glove service. You can access their Bitcoin Well Infinite, and you can make sure that you're getting taken care of. You'll get personal help. They will sit on a phone call with you and make sure that you are all settled away, that your Bitcoin is properly stored and secured. And you don't have to rely on any of these potential banks or any counterparties, right? I mean, we're talking about central banks here, and they're seeing the writing on the wall for themselves. They're seeing like, hey, all of our clients are either demanding Bitcoin to have some sort of aspect of their own portfolio with these investment banks, or that more people are closing their bank accounts and looking to go towards a asset like Bitcoin. They want to take self-responsibility. They want this to continue moving its way forward and the Bitcoin industry to continue to progress. So that's why I think here it is extremely vital that everybody take self-custody, continue to ride the wave, and don't let the smoke and mirrors of these big giant central banks trying to now front run potential nation states with Donald Trump and other aspects to hide the fact that you can become your own bank. You need some sort of Bitcoin plan, whether it's through yourself or through some other aspect, right? I mean, these guys are seeing, hey, inflation was at a rocketing 17.5%. So we needed some Bitcoin allocation. So if they can see it, the central bankers who have been running behind and playing catch up, you should be able to see it as well. So I'll keep this one short and sweet for this little early morning rip for you guys. So maybe I'll do another one later today, but smash the like button, hit the subscribe button, tell a friend to tell a friend. And thank you guys all for joining me here this morning for some breaking news on the Czech Republic's national or central bank.